Good afternoon, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Thank you for joining us today. So the topic today is the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we're actually looking at how when we are doing good, we rejoice and we actually enjoy the fruits of good karma, right? And if we were to do bad, what can happen to us? And today we're going to share a very powerful story about doing bad. Okay, so let's begin. Now, for those of you who have access, one moment, something wrong with my PowerPoint. Okay, so that should be okay now. All right, for those of you who are able to access this, please download the file here. This contains the slides I will be using. All right. So let's begin. This is last sharing. Last month, we looked at this, how the evildoer suffers and the well-doer rejoices. So there were two verses in Dhammapada verse 15 and also Dhammapada verse 16. Today we continue from there. We're going to look at verse 17 and 18, which basically will be along the same line of as these. Okay, so verse 17, it says, "Here he suffers, after death he suffers. The evildoer suffers in both worlds. The thought, 'Evil have I done,' torments him deeply, and he suffers even more when gone to a world of woe." Basically, this is referring to the fact that if you do evil deeds, you will suffer in this present life. And even after death, you will continue to suffer basically from the very bad karma you have accumulated from your evil deeds. So the evildoer will suffer both in the present world and in wherever he is reborn. And in the case where a person is doing some very evil things, then he could be reborn in a very bad realm, the hell realm or something like that. So today we're going to look at a story that talks about Devadatta. Devadatta, the cousin of the Buddha, who did a lot of terrible things to the Buddha. So we're going to use that as an example. And basically the next part of this Dhammapada verse, it says, "The thought, 'Evil have I done,' torments him deeply." So towards the end of your life, if you have done evil things, somehow it will catch up to you. The thought will cross your mind, "Oh, I have done this terrible thing to somebody." And that hurts you, torments you. And here in this Dhammapada verse, it says that then the person will suffer even more after the person is reborn in a woeful plane, a world of woe. That means in hell realm or in a terrible realm, right? You see, if we do evil, we could be reborn in lower realm. And what is below us in lower realm? There is the realm of the hungry ghost, the petas. There is also the realm of animals. And finally, you can go very deep down to the lowest realm, and that is the hell realm. So if we were to do very evil things, it can bring us there. And basically, the Buddha pointed out that there are a few very terribly evil things that people do can take them to hell realm. For instance, killing a mother, killing your mother, killing your father, killing an arahant, and hurting or injuring the Buddha, and causing schism, breaking up the community of Sangha. So in fact, what Devadatta had done is that he had attempted to harm the Buddha. He wanted to kill the Buddha. So he had already committed one of the most evil deeds. And then he also created schism. So we're going to look at the story behind that. So this is verse 17, talking about the evildoer, specifically referring to Devadatta. Then verse 18 talks about the good. It says, the doer of good rejoices here and hereafter. He rejoices in both the worlds. The thought, good have I done, delights him greatly, and he rejoices even more when gone to a world of bliss. So what happens here is that the Buddha was referring to the fact that when people do good deeds, they can be reborn in a very blissful plane, higher plane, as in the Deva realm, or even higher in the Brahma realm. So when people are reborn in the Deva realm or the Brahma realm, the higher realm above the human realm, they actually are treated as devas and they experience blissfulness, because in those realms they still have suffering. You know, suffering doesn't end until you become an arahant. They still have suffering, but in those realms the suffering is a lot less than what we are experiencing, just as our suffering is a lot less than animals. If you think about it, animals suffer even far worse than us. Right? So below the human realm, animals suffer very badly. And therefore, we are better off than animals. And below animals, then there is the Peta realm, the hungry ghost, who are continuously craving and suffering. And even below that, the hell realm, people continuously suffering day in and day out, 24/7. So they are in even worse conditions. So in our case, because we are in a realm higher than the animal realm, we are enjoying a more blissful world than the animals. Likewise, people who are reborn in the Deva realm, the higher realm, the heavenly realms, and also the Brahma realm, even higher than that, then they will be enjoying a much more blissful world than what we are experiencing. Right? So this is really what the Buddha was trying to convey to us. So let's begin by looking at the good. Right? Today's topic, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So in the case of Devadatta, he's both bad and ugly. So we're going to come to that in a moment. So let's take a look at the good. There's a story behind the good. This is the story where the Buddha stated this verse 18 in reference to Sumana, Lady Sumana, or Sumana Devi. This is the daughter of the lay disciple Anathapindika. Anathapindika, as many of us are aware, Anathapindika is a very wealthy and very virtuous man who only did a lot of good in his life, and he offered a lot of good offerings to the community of Sangha and to the Buddha. So he was doing everything, even as a lay person, to help to promote the Buddha's asana, to promote the teachings of the Buddha, to help the monks and spread the teachings of the Buddha. So he had 3 daughters, right? So this is the story of his youngest daughter, Lady Sumana. Okay, so let's begin with the story. Right? What happens here is that there are actually 2 lay disciples who are very, very meritorious, very virtuous. They only do good things and are constantly promoting the teachings of the Buddha and offering to the Buddha. Anathapindika is a male, and then Visakha is a female. Both are lay disciples. They live separately, but they are constantly offering a lot of alms to the community of Sangha. So here, every day, 2,000 monks took their meal in the house of Anathapindika in Savatthi. And likewise, another 2,000 monks went to the house of the female lay disciple Visakha. So these 2 are considered to be the most virtuous lay disciples of the Buddha. Right? They have been known to do a lot of good and a lot of charity. And Anathapindika appointed his eldest daughter, Mahasubhada, to attend to the monks, to serve the monks, to be in charge of serving the monks, making sure all the monks get their food in an orderly manner and everything is done for the monks. And this first daughter, Mahasubhada, was so devoted to the teachings of the Buddha. And as a result, she actually obtained the fruition of Sotapan. So she became a Sotapan. But of course, as she grew into an adult, she got married. So soon after, she married, and of course, she had to go and live with her husband's family. So she had to leave the household of Anathapindika. So now Anathapindika doesn't have the eldest daughter with him anymore to do all this, to organize all this for him. So what did he do? Now he appointed his second daughter, right? And this is Chula Subhada, the younger daughter, right? And this younger daughter likewise followed in the footsteps of her older daughter and did a very good job serving the monk and organizing the alms for the monks. And also because she's also very devoted to the teachings of the Buddha, she also soon obtained the fruition of Sotapan. So this is again a very meritorious fruition, right? To become a Sotapan is actually a very good fruits of your practice. But again, as usual, she grew up to become an adult, and she too got married and also went to live with the family of her husband. Now, there's no explanation what happens to both these two sisters, but they went to live with their family, with the family of the husband, so they were no longer in the household of Anathapindika. So now Anathapindika is left with his youngest daughter. Finally, he appointed his youngest daughter, Sumana, Lady Sumana, to attend to the monks. And at that time, Lady Sumana was quite young, and then she started to organize all the alms food for the monks and did a lot of things for the monks and did a very good job. In fact, she was very devoted to the teachings of the Buddha. And she was so devoted, not only did she attain the state, the fruition of Sotapan, she even went one level higher and attained the fruition of Sakadagami. See, this is the second level of the Arya fruition. So she now has attained the second level, even higher than her father. Her father, Anathapindika, was still only a Sotapan. But now the youngest daughter had gone one level higher to become a Sakadagami. And she was so loyal to her father and so dedicated to her task, serving the monks, she never got married. So this is good news for Anathapindika. The youngest daughter decided not to get married, to stay with the household, with the family, continue to serve the monks. So she did that very well for quite some time. And of course, Anathapindika was very pleased. Then one day, Anathapindika entered the refectory. As I mentioned before, this word refectory. Refectory refers to the dining hall in a monastery or in a temple. So this word refectory, for those of you who are not familiar with this word, refectory refers to the monastic dining hall in a temple or in the monastery. So Anathapindika went to the dining hall, the refectory, and he received a message that his daughter was asking for him. So he went immediately to see his daughter, and he asked the daughter, "What's up, daughter?" So she said, "What is it? Dear daughter Sumana, why did you ask for me? Is there anything you needed from me?" So he was curious and inquired from his daughter. But a strange thing happened. Sumana responded to her father by saying, "What say you, dear youngest brother?" And this is strange because it's the father speaking to her, and she responded calling him her youngest brother. So this is kind of strange. So Anathapindika was very puzzled, right? He was very curious, what's going on? So he asked her, right, "Are you okay? You are speaking incoherently, daughter." So he was saying to her, "Why are you speaking like that? This is not normal, right? This is unusual." So he was curious. But she again responded by saying, "No, I am not talking incoherently, youngest brother." So she continued to call him, her own father, she continued to call him youngest brother. So the father was very puzzled. So the father kept asking, because he was very puzzled why she kept calling him youngest brother. So he asked her again and again. In fact, he was worried that the daughter was depressed or feeling fearful of something. So he was very curious. So he asked the daughter, "Are you afraid, dear daughter?" Because he was thinking maybe the daughter was experiencing some kind of depression or some kind of fear. So he queried the daughter, "Are you in fear or anything like that?" Again, Lady Sumana responded, "No, I am not afraid, youngest brother." So she continued to call him youngest brother. Right? So, and one very strange thing happened. Soon after that, she said nothing, and then she died immediately. She passed away immediately after that. So this is kind of very strange. So therefore, after her passing, Anathapindika then, of course, conducted the funeral. Although Anathapindika had attained the fruit of conversion, and this is the Sotapan, he was unable to withhold his grief. He was very, very sad. Understandable, he lost his daughter. Even though you're a Sotapan, you are still attached to your own family somehow. You may have gained certain freedom, right? Freedom from this thinking this body is me, freedom from skeptical doubt, freedom from these rites and rituals, but they are still householder, they are still lay people and still attached to their own family. So Anathapindika was very, very sad, grief-stricken, because now he lost his very beloved youngest daughter. So after he performed the funeral rites over the daughter's body, Anathapindika was so sad, he had to consult the Buddha. He went to see the Buddha and told the Buddha what had happened during the final moments of the life of Lady Sumana. So he went to see the daughter still experiencing grief, right, weeping away in front of the Buddha. So the Buddha asked him, "Householder, how is it that you are feeling so sad and sorrowful with tears in your eyes and weeping?" Well, basically, Buddha actually knew what was going on, but he just asked him so that he would have a chance to explain to the Buddha why he came. So Anathapindika replied, "Venerable Sir, my daughter Sumana is dead." "Well, why do you weep? Is not death certain for all?" So the Buddha basically was just reminding him that death is certain. Life is uncertain, but death is certain. So asking him, why does he continue to weep? Because the daughter dying is something that will happen sooner or later. Of course, it is a bit too soon for her to die before the father passed away. But actually, Anathapindika was sad not just because the daughter has died, but because what had transpired just before her death. So he responded to the Buddha, "I know that, Venerable, but my daughter was so modest and so conscientious. What grieves me so much is the thought that when she died, she was not in her right senses." So Anathapindika actually thought that the daughter had gone a little bit crazy just before she died. That's why he felt so sad. But the Buddha corrected him. He says, the Buddha actually inquired a bit more just for him to explain. "So what did your youngest daughter say, great treasurer?" You see, Anathapindika is so wealthy and he's in charge of distributing the wealth for charity and for serving the monks, to buy food for the monks and so on. That's why many of the monks, including the Buddha, called him the treasurer. So the Buddha asked, "So what did your youngest daughter say, great treasurer?" "Venerable Sir, I addressed her as dear Sumana, but she replied to me, dear youngest brother." So here Anathapindika explained to the Buddha that during the final moments of his daughter's life, she kept calling him youngest brother, and he was very puzzled, and he thought that she had gone maybe a little bit crazy, just before she died. So that's why he was so sad about that. And another Pindika went on to relay to the Buddha the whole story, the whole conversation where he had with his daughter just before she passed. And then the Buddha said to Anatta Pindika, "Great treasurer, your daughter did not talk incoherently. You were her youngest brother before. Householder, your daughter was mature in the paths and the fruits. For while you have attained but the fruit of conversion, your daughter had attained the paths and the fruits. Hence, she spoke thus." So what the Buddha meant was that Lady Sumana had attained a higher level. And Lady Sumana, as a result of her higher attainment than her father, she also developed this special knowledge about past lives. And she was aware that in her past life, her own father was actually her youngest brother. That is why in her final moments, she called him youngest brother. You see, this is also something, although it was not very thoroughly explained, but this is something that is understood. People in their final moments before they pass away, and during the final days or the final hours before a person passed away, a lot of things will flash through the mind, especially things from the past. In the case of Lady Sumana, because she had attained a higher level, a very high level of attainment, she actually saw her past lives before she went. And of course, her past life was filled with meritorious deeds. So she actually was feeling good, realizing that in her past lives, she had done so many good deeds. Now in her final moment, she had to go. She actually left feeling good. And she saw in her past life that her own father was her youngest brother. That is why in her final moment, she called her father youngest brother, right? Because it crossed her mind that this was her youngest brother in her previous life. And this is really what happened here. Although these details were not explained, but this is really what happens. A person in his final moment will see his whole life flash through his mind. And in this case of a person with a higher attainment, in the case of Lady Sumana, she could see her past lives, and she rejoiced in that. So another Pindika realized what had happened. "Oh, was that the reason, Venerable?" That's what he said. He replied to the Buddha. And the Buddha then confirmed, "Yes, that was the reason, householder." So now another Pindika felt a lot better. He had now realized what transpired in the final moments of his own daughter before she passed away. So now he was curious. He asked the Buddha, where did she go? Where has she now been reborn, Venerable? So he was curious what happened to the daughter after death. And Buddha then stated very simply, says, "In the world of the Tusita gods, householder," and this is in the Deva realms, right? There are 6 realms above us, and this is one of the 6 realms, the Tusita realm. So Lady Sumana now is reborn in the higher realm. You see, people who live a very meritorious life, they did a lot of good things and never did any evil deeds in their life. They will, or they may be, I won't say will, they may be reborn in a higher realm. Right? So we can be reborn in a higher realm if our life has been meritorious, or if we have done a lot of good and maybe made a few small mistakes here and there, we could still come back as a human, but we probably would be reborn in a much better, more comfortable household. Maybe a wealthy family where we will enjoy more luxury and more good things in life and not have to suffer, work on the streets and go through a lot of suffering. So our rebirth would be more meritorious, either as a human being in a better family setting, or reborn in a higher realm where we experience blissful world, a more blissful world in the Deva realm, or even in the Brahma realm if we meditated very well during our final hours. So it is possible if you have been had done a lot of good, and during your final hours you go into deep meditation, you could be reborn. Now I say could be, I'm not saying you will be. You could be reborn in the Brahma realm, right? Because the Brahma realm is usually people who are very well cultivated in their mind, purifying in their mind. Before they become Arahant, they could be reborn in the Brahma realm. But a person who practice a lot of sila, practice good, virtuous morality, and doesn't do any evil deeds, could be reborn in the realm of the Devas. And in this case, Lady Sumana was reborn in the Tusita realm, right? And there she will enjoy a very blissful life. So this is what happened to Lady Sumana, the good, right? The good person. And now another Pindika then went on to ask the Buddha, okay, Venerable, while my daughter remained here among her kinsfolk, she went about rejoicing. And when she went hence, she was reborn in the Deva world and blissful. So in other words, another Pindika was very happy that he noticed when the daughter was alive, she was always happy, always rejoicing when she was with her friends and relatives. And now she is reborn in the higher realm. She must be experiencing a very blissful life now. So another Pindika was very happy that his own daughter had finally now been reborn in a higher realm and experiencing a more blissful life. Okay, so then the Buddha finally said to another Pindika, this is so, householder. They that are heedful, be they lay folk or religious, rejoice both in this world and in the world beyond. So the Buddha basically pointed this out, and that is when the Buddha uttered this verse, Dhammapada, verse number 18. Okay, so this is really the story of the good, and that is Lady Sumana, the youngest daughter of Anatta Pindika. Right. So this is a very happy ending here. So, and this is the verse 18 that referred to Lady Sumana. In reference to Lady Sumana, sorry. The doer of good rejoices here and hereafter. He rejoices in both the worlds. The thought, good have I done, delights him greatly, and he rejoices even more when gone to a world of bliss. Right? So think good, speak good, and do good, and avoid evil, and purify mind. That's really the basic teachings of the Buddha. So this is the story of the good. Now we look at the bad. And here it is about the story of Devadatta. Okay, this is story time. Okay. And verse 17 is about the bad and the ugly. And this is in reference to Devadatta. And this verse, the Buddha uttered, says, here he suffers. After death, he suffers. The evildoer suffers in both worlds. The thought, evil have I done, torments him deeply, and he suffers even more when gone to a world of woe. World of woe means going to a suffering plane, a suffering place. So in the case of Devadatta, it is the hell realm. Right? You could also be reborn in the animal realm, or the hungry ghost realm, the Peta realm, and these realms are suffering realms. So you will suffer in this current life, and you will suffer in your next life. So this is verse 17. So let's take a look at the story of Devadatta. You see, Devadatta was a cousin of Prince Siddhartha before Prince Siddhartha became the Buddha. They were cousins, and Devadatta was always competing with Siddhartha, Prince Siddhartha, for attention. And very jealous of Prince Siddhartha because Prince Siddhartha was always better than him in many ways. Siddhartha was a better archer. Siddhartha was a better horseman. Siddhartha was much more likable person. All the servants and all the subjects and all the people around the village, they liked Prince Siddhartha. So Siddhartha, as a young man, before he became the Buddha, enjoyed a lot of praises. And not only that, not only did he beat Devadatta in many things, in many competitions, he also married their most beautiful cousin, right? Yasodhara. So Siddhartha married their most beautiful cousin sister and took her as his wife and gave birth to Prince Rahula. Okay, so all this made Devadatta very jealous. So when Prince Siddhartha finally became enlightened and became the Buddha, Devadatta, at the back of his mind, was constantly very jealous of the Buddha. He was constantly trying to find ways and means to hurt the Buddha, to destroy the Buddha's reputation, and so on. So he was up to a lot of no good. So this religious instruction, the verse 18, was delivered by the Buddha while reciting at the Jetavana monastery in Savatthi, with reference to Devadatta. While he was with the Buddha in Kosambi, there was this time when Devadatta was with the Buddha in Kosambi. Devadatta realized Buddha was receiving a great amount of respect, honor, and offerings. So he was still very jealous because he kept seeing that the Buddha was receiving so much respect, honor, and offering from the people, whereas he himself was not well respected. So he continued to become very jealous of the Buddha now. And Devadatta was so full of envy and jealousy, it really consumed him. And he even burned him and turned this envy and jealousy into hatred. And he now wanted to take over the order of the monks from the Buddha. He wanted to compete with the Buddha one more time to take over the order of the monks. So he had the ambition to head the order of the monks. So one day, while the Buddha was preaching at the Veluvana monastery in Rajagaha, and present at that preaching, the Buddha was preaching, the king was there also. So the king was amongst the congregation in attendance. And so Devadatta walked up to the Buddha after the Buddha had completed his teaching. Devadatta approached the Buddha and asked the Buddha a very direct question. First, of course, he paid homage to the Buddha. And then when he got up, he said to the Buddha, "Reverend Sir, the Exalted One is now worn out, stricken with years, aging. Let him live a pleasant life in this world, free from care, and let me lead the congregation of monks. Commit the congregation of monks to my hands." So what Devadatta was really saying was he was pretending that he was concerned for the Buddha's well-being and saying that now that the Buddha is getting old, now that the Buddha has spent so many years teaching and the body is wearing out, maybe the Buddha should spend his final years in peace and relax and in a pleasant life, and allow Devadatta to take over the order of the monks. So here, Devadatta tried the peaceful and the friendly approach to ask the Buddha to hand over the order of the monks to him. Of course, the Buddha knew straight away what Devadatta was up to. And he knew this is actually not good. Because firstly, Devadatta was not qualified. And secondly, he knew Devadatta was up to a lot of no good. Right? So the Buddha basically rejected him outright. The Buddha rejected his offer outright, rebuked him, admonished him, right? and saying that Devadatta is not worthy to take this responsibility. Devadatta was very angry after that, right? And he stormed away. And the Buddha knew that Devadatta would now start doing some terrible things. So in order to avoid any misunderstanding, because people knew Devadatta is the Buddha's cousin, so they may misunderstand that, yeah, the Buddha may hand over to Devadatta. So the Buddha made sure that people don't misunderstand that. So he instructed all the monks to conduct this very special proclamation ceremony, the Pakasaniya Karma proclamation. This is basically to proclaim that Devadatta is not going to take over, and therefore Devadatta does not have any special privileges and so on. So this is a very public proclamation to all the monks, and this of course is humiliation to Devadatta. So upon making this proclamation, all the monks are aware that Devadatta will have no special privilege at all, even though he's supposedly the cousin brother of the Buddha. So the Devadatta now got very, very angry. He's full of rage. He felt so aggrieved, and now he wanted to take revenge on the Buddha. He vowed vengeance on the Buddha. And the first thing that came to his mind, he now wanted to kill the Buddha because he thought that's the only way he can take over. So with hatred towards the Buddha, Devadatta actually made 3 attempts. He attempted to kill the Buddha on 3 separate occasions, trying 3 different ways of killing the Buddha. And so now the first way, on the first occasion, Devadatta actually schemed with this Prince Ajatasattu. Now, this Prince Ajatasattu is also not a very good person. He's the son of the king who was present during the Buddha's teaching when Devadatta approached the Buddha. So now this prince, Devadatta, schemed with the prince and taught the prince, why don't you kill your father and take over the kingdom of Kosala from your father? So I think there was no details, but I think that's what happened, that Ajatasattu somehow managed to get his father killed, and now Ajatasattu became the king. Okay, so soon, with the help of the new king, Ajatasattu, Devadatta got hold of assassins, archers, and murderers. So employed a group of assassins to kill the Buddha. So they would have to ambush the Buddha and attempt to kill the Buddha. So this is with the help of the power of the king. So of course, these assassins are under the command of the king. They would be obedient to the king. So they listened to the king and they followed Devadatta. They started to plan to ambush the Buddha, to kill the Buddha. So these hired assassins, the strange thing happened, because the moment they approached the Buddha, they realized the Buddha is not a normal person. And this is such a special person. Instead of attacking the Buddha, all the assassins laid down the arms and became the disciples of the Buddha. So this attempt was a complete failure, because all the assassins, they decided that no, they don't want to kill the Buddha because the Buddha is a very special person. They realized that any person who approached the Buddha during those days, he would know straight away that the Buddha is a very special person. So these assassins realized that, they laid down their arms, and then they heard the teachings of the Buddha. They became the Buddha's disciples. So the first attempt was a complete failure. The second attempt, this time Devadatta decided to do it himself, since he could not hire the assassins to do it for him. So he climbed up to this mountain, which is not far away from the monastery, climbed up on the hill, right? And from the top of the hill, he got a very large stone ready, knowing that the Buddha would walk by during his daily alms round, the Buddha would pass by. So Devadatta waited for the Buddha to come by, hiding there behind that large rock. And as soon as the Buddha passed by, he rolled that large rock down, hoping to crush the Buddha, to kill the Buddha with that rock. But a strange thing happened, of course. When the rock came down, it did not kill the Buddha. It actually just rolled past the Buddha and just hurt the toe of the Buddha. So it actually did not crush the Buddha. It just rolled past the Buddha and just injured the toe of the Buddha only. Small matter, right? So this is really what happened in this case. The second attempt, again, ended in complete failure, right? Now, Devadatta realized that he must try something else. He could not hire the assassins. He could not do it himself. Now he schemed and he had another trick up his sleeve. He realized that there was this great big elephant, Nalagiri. So he actually aroused Nalagiri and led this elephant towards the Buddha and caused the elephant to stampede towards the Buddha to attack the Buddha, hoping that this elephant would stampede the Buddha and stomp over the Buddha and kill the Buddha. So he tried that stunt, right? Bringing the elephant towards the Buddha and causing the elephant to stampede and attack the Buddha. But what happened is that the Reverend Ananda was with the Buddha at the time. So when the elephant approached, the elder Ananda stood in front of the Buddha, offered his own life to protect the Buddha, hoping that he could stop the elephant from charging and stepping over the Buddha. So he stood in front of the Buddha, hoping to stop the elephant. But he didn't have to do that, actually. When the elephant approached the Buddha, now again, not only a human being, even an animal, approaching the Buddha, knew that this was a special human being. So the Buddha actually subdued the elephant and it became docile, completely tame, and bent down and just relaxed. So the Buddha subdued the elephant and Nalagiri now became very docile, very peaceful. So again, on the third occasion, Devadatta failed 3 times to kill the Buddha. So I guess he must have realized now it's very hard to kill the Buddha. Now he schemed and tried to think of something he could do. All he really wanted, it wasn't so much he wanted the Buddha dead. He just wanted to take control of the monkhood or the order of the monks. He just wanted to be in charge of all the monks. That was all he wanted. So now he thought of another plan. Having failed to kill the Buddha on all 3 attempts, now Devadatta tried a different tactic. And this time, he created a schism in the order of monks, trying to break up the order, and took a lot of monks with him to his own place in Gayasisa. And these are newly admitted monks who were very blurred. They didn't know what was going on. So they just listened to Devadatta, thinking Devadatta is a good teacher. They just followed him. These are young or new monks who are not clear-minded, you know. So Devadatta created this schism, broke up the order and took a group of monks with him. And hopefully he would attract more and more monks. So he took with him to his own temple in Gayasisa. And of course, that is not good because he was creating a schism. Now, pause here for a moment. I mentioned earlier on, there are a few very evil deeds. The Buddha pointed out that if you did those deeds, you are actually creating the most evil act. Right? So it's killing your mother, killing your father, killing an arahant, injuring a Buddha, and creating schism amongst the order of the monks. And here, Devadatta attempted to kill the Buddha. Even though he failed, he had already committed a very evil deed. And now he even did another very evil deed of creating this schism, breaking up the order of the monks, causing trouble amongst them so that a group of monks would follow him. So now he has actually done some really terrible things. And when the Buddha heard what had happened, he summoned Devadatta and asked Devadatta, is it true, as men say, that you are striving to create schism and heresy in the order? So he asked Devadatta a very direct question. And Devadatta was very honest. Straight away he said, yes, it is true. And Devadatta admitted he wanted to break it up and take the monks with him. But the Buddha then told him, Devadatta, it is a grievous thing to create a schism in the order. So in other words, the Buddha was teaching Devadatta that this is one of the most evil deeds you can ever do, to create schism in the order of the monks. Devadatta didn't listen. The Buddha continued to admonish Devadatta at length, but Devadatta just ignored and paid no attention to the Buddha's guidance, and he left and went back to his own temple, where he already took a group of monks with him. So the Buddha realized this is not good. He needed to solve this problem. Then the Buddha reflected in his mind what had transpired so far. He says, easy to do are deeds that are evil, deeds that bring harm. But the deeds that brings welfare, the deed that is good, that truly is hard to do. So basically, the Buddha reflected in his mind, realizing that, or rather reflecting the fact that, doing bad things is very easy for bad people, and causing harm is quite easy for these bad people to do. But for these bad people, trying to do good, trying to bring welfare and do good deeds, it's very hard for them, almost impossible for bad people to do good deeds and bring welfare to themselves and to other people. So the Buddha realized that, the Buddha thought through that. And then the Buddha went on and pronounced this stanza. That means he basically told to the monks, all the monks that are still with him. And the Buddha basically made this solemn utterance in front of all the monks. He says, easy to do for the good is the good. The good for the evil man is hard. Evil for the evil man is easy to do. Evil for the noble is hard. So what the Buddha meant is, easy to do for the good is the good. So that means for good people, doing good is very easy to do. That's what that first line meant. So good people find it easy to do good, and that is true. If you're a good person, it's very easy for you to do good deeds. Then the second line, the good for the evil man is hard. That means for the evil person, he will find it very difficult to do good, to do welfare, to do good and do welfare. The evil man will have great difficulty doing that. Okay, and then the third line, evil for the evil man is easy to do. So the Buddha was reminding the monks that an evil person will find it very easy to do evil deeds. To him, it's no big deal to do evil deeds. That's why there is such an evil person. So for the evil person, it is easy to do evil deeds. But for the good person, for the noble and the good person, evil deeds are very hard to do. Evil for the noble is hard. That means for a good and noble person, it's very hard to do evil deeds. So this is what the Buddha reminded all the monks with this solemn utterance. And then the Buddha decided he needed to solve the problem of the schism. And he decided to send his two chief disciples, Sariputta and Mahamoggallana, to go to the temple of Devadatta and bring back the monks who left the order. Okay, so they proceeded there. The chief disciples proceeded and went there. And when they arrived there, they instructed the monks. I told the monks that they were sent by the Buddha, and taught the monks that they should return back to the Buddha, who is the proper teacher. And they also performed some deeds of wonders. Now, in the commentary, they even mentioned some magical deeds. So I'm not sure what miracles or magic was done. So I didn't want to refer to it as magic or miracles. I just say deeds of wonders. So the two chief disciples performed deeds of wonders and returned to the monastery, bringing with them the new monks who had left and joined Devadatta. Now they came back to the Buddha. So the chief disciples brought back those monks who had left. Okay. Soon after, now that Devadatta had tried and did so many evil deeds, soon after, Devadatta fell very ill. He became so ill, he was bedridden. He couldn't get up. And he remained like that for 9 months. And he knew that his time was up, because after 9 months of such severe illness, during those days, we don't have hospitals like today, So when you are very sick for so many months, you know your time is up. So Devadatta realized that after 9 months, his time was up. He knew that he no longer had any chance to try to take over the order of the monks anymore. And perhaps, I don't know, but there was a suggestion that he might be remorseful of what he had done, because he realized he had done some bad deeds. And that realization tormented him. Right? So he was feeling very sad about himself, because his memory of all the bad things he did tormented him very badly. So now he wanted to go and see the Buddha. Right? So he desired to see the Buddha. And then he told the last few remaining disciples that were still with him, and he said, I desire to see the Buddha. Please make it possible for me to see him. Because Devadatta could not walk anymore. He was bedridden. So he knew he could no longer find a way to go and see the Buddha. He needed his own disciples to carry him there. Perhaps these disciples were compassionate towards him. That's why they didn't leave him. They took care of him because he was ill. So, but then they also were not evil. Right? And they said to Devadatta, they said, when you enjoy good health, you made an enemy of the Buddha. We will not lead you to him. So these disciples actually were still with Devadatta out of compassion. They were taking care of him because he was very sick. But they also knew that they didn't want to bring him to see the Buddha, because they knew that this man is up to no good. So that's why they refused to bring Devadatta to see the Buddha outright. But Devadatta, of course, kept begging them. Right? Devadatta said to them, do not destroy me. Truly, I have conceived hatred towards the Buddha, but the Buddha has not harbored so much as the tip of a hair's hatred towards me. So in other words, Devadatta admitted that he had conceived hatred towards the Buddha and did some terrible things to the Buddha. But he also reminded his disciples, the Buddha had never had any hatred towards him. Although the Buddha did not agree to what Devadatta was doing, the Buddha did not show any hatred towards Devadatta. Of course, it's true, because a Buddha does not have hatred. So the disciples realized that, so even if the Buddha saw Devadatta, the Buddha would not feel hatred. So they thought about it. And Devadatta continued to beg his disciples, please let me see the exalted one. And after begging over and over again and again, finally, his disciples agreed. So they had to carry him. And of course, they realized that he is bedridden. So they could not just take him along. They had to put him on a stretcher or something like that. So finally, they laid him on a litter and started out with him. Now that word litter, L-I-T-T-E-R, this word actually is referring to some kind of a stretcher. It is like a portable bed, a light portable bed, like a stretcher, okay? So they put him on a stretcher. Well, we can use the word stretcher. So they put him on a stretcher and started to take him towards where the Buddha was residing. Most of the time, when the Buddha was not traveling around, he would be at Jetavana Monastery. So they headed towards the Buddha, right, carrying Devadatta on a stretcher. So when the monks in Jetavana, that means the Buddhist monks, heard that Devadatta was approaching, because of course, as the contingent of the disciples of Devadatta was coming, a lot of people would be aware and they would report back to those monks at Jetavana. And when they were aware, they went to see the Buddha and informed the Buddha, "Reverend Sir, we hear the Devadatta is coming to see you." So they basically told the Buddha that, that Devadatta is coming. But Devadatta basically assured them, "Monks, he will not succeed in seeing me in this present existence." In other words, the Buddha told the monks, there is no way that Devadatta would be able to see the Buddha in this present life. Because the Buddha knew, the Buddha has these three knowledges, and one of them is he knows the karma rising and falling in other people. So he knew for all the terrible evil deeds that Devadatta did to the Buddha, then Devadatta would not be alive by the time he arrived to see the Buddha. So the Buddha knew that. So the Buddha basically told the monks that this Devadatta would not be able to see the Buddha. But the monks, of course, were not very aware what the Buddha meant. So they kept telling the Buddha, and they were reporting to the Buddha progressively when Devadatta reached a certain place as he was approaching nearer and nearer to the Jetavana monastery. So the monks went back to the Buddha continuously to update the Buddha that Devadatta was approaching. "Reverend Sir, he has reached such and such a place. He is now near." And again, the Buddha reminded the monks, even if he enters within Jetavana, he will not succeed in seeing me. Because the Buddha knew what would happen to Devadatta already. So those disciples of Devadatta, who came with Devadatta, as they were approaching the monastery, they know that they would see the Buddha. They knew that these monks, I'm referring to the disciples of Devadatta, these monks knew that they would arrive at the monastery. They knew that they would actually see the Buddha. So they wanted to make sure that they would, after carrying the stretcher for so many miles, they would be all very full of sweaty, dirty. So they wanted to clean themselves first. So they laid down the stretcher of Devadatta next to the river, or next to actually a pond. They call it the lotus tank, right in front of the monastery. And these monks went in to take their bath. They descended into the tank to bathe. So they wanted to clean themselves before they approached the Buddha. But of course, Devadatta was still was not able to move, so he would not be able to go into the tank to bathe. So he remained on the stretcher. But the Devadatta was uneasy. He wanted to get up. So Devadatta now got up from the stretcher. He arose from his stretcher and he sat down. Then, as he tried to stand up, placing his feet on the ground, he tried to stand up. The moment he tried to stand up, his feet started to sink into the earth. Almost like quicksand was swallowing him up. His feet started to sink onto the earth. And gradually, he sank deeper and deeper into the earth. So in other words, it was almost like he landed in quicksand, right? He was sinking deeper and deeper into the earth, and finally, he was swallowed by the earth completely. Eventually, Devadatta was completely swallowed up by the earth, and of course, he died, and he was reborn in the realm of the Avicii hell, the lowest hell realm. So he was now reborn in the hell realm. And this is actually the ending of Devadatta, how his life ended as a result of all the evil, the most evil deeds he did to the Buddha. And this is what happened to him. So therefore, the Buddha uttered this verse 17. He says, here he suffers. After death, he suffers. The evildoer suffers in both worlds. The thought, evil have I done, torments him deeply, and he suffers even more when gone to a world of woe, a world of suffering. So this is Dhammapada, verse 17, the bad and the ugly. And of course, you saw earlier on, the good. So this is basically the two verses, right? Now let's listen to the chanting of these two verses. I'm very thankful to Bhante Indaratana for providing this chant of the Dhammapada verse 17 and 18.
Ida Dhammapada penca Dhammapada Papakari Ubayanta Dhammapada Papang me Katanti Dhammapada Bhiyo Dhammapada Dungating Gato Idha Nandati Pencha Nandati Khata Punyo Ubayanta Nandati Punyang me Khatanti Nandati Bhiyo Nandati Sungating Gato.
I hope you have enjoyed the story of Devadatta, okay, and the story of Lady Sumana. And that brings to an end my presentation for today. You can download this the slides that goes along, right, from this link. If you have any questions, please post them. Okay, so let me take a look and see if there's any questions. Sorry about that. I'm just checking through the questions. Why is Devadatta always having ill will on Buddha? Okay, at the start of the presentation, I mentioned when Devadatta was a young man and while Buddha was Prince Siddhartha, when they were young, they were cousins. And Siddhartha constantly was outperforming Devadatta in everything. So they were both competing in all kinds of competition. You know, those days, the prince, young prince and noble family, sons of noblemen, they always like to take part in games where they try to compete against each other to see who is better, who is smarter. Almost in everything that they competed, Siddhartha was always better than Devadatta. And of course, that made Devadatta very jealous and very angry, right? And in fact, the final crush came when Siddhartha married their most beautiful cousin, Yasodhara, and took her in as his wife. So because of that, Devadatta already deep down inside had a lot of resentment towards Siddhartha. So when Siddhartha became the Buddha, Devadatta never forgot. He constantly reminded himself that this, the Buddha is my arch enemy. I hate him. I'm angry with him. I'm jealous of him. I hate him. So he was constantly thinking like that. And then he saw that the Buddha was building a very large contingent of monks. So these monks, he was very ambitious, this Devadatta. He wanted to take over the order of the monks, and the Buddha refused. And what really made Devadatta finally so angry and wanted to kill the Buddha was when the Buddha got all the monks together and made that declaration, right? That declaration about Devadatta, that Devadatta, basically to warn all the monks publicly about Devadatta. And then that's when Devadatta now wanted revenge. So I hope that basically answers that question. You see, we have to be careful. Even the slightest envy we have for someone, another person, that slightest envy, if we allow it to continue, it rots in our mind and our heart. And it actually gets worse if we allow it to continue. And it actually ferments and becomes so rotten, it actually drives us to do very evil things. This is why whenever we have even the slightest hint of unpleasant feeling towards somebody, we should learn to let go. If there is someone who hurts you, now you deep in your own heart, learn to forgive the person, let go, walk away. Don't constantly try to fight that person, try to hurt that person, try to take vengeance and so on. Because any of such jealousy or envy can lead to very evil deeds you may do. And this story of Devadatta is a classic example that this Devadatta had allowed this jealousy to ferment and get so bad. Okay, so I hope that answers the question. Let me then look through if there's any more. Another question: can one who does evil and bad deeds but truly and sincerely repent for their evil deeds and not repeat them again, be free from their consequences of one's karma? The short answer is no. That means if you had done evil deeds and bad deeds, you have accumulated bad karma. And this bad karma will ripen one day. There is no escape. What you can do, if you repent, and now you start to do good. When you start to do good, what happens? You accumulate good karma, right? So when you are able to accumulate good karma, that good karma will then help you. When the bad karma ripens, and you may be hurt by the ripening of the bad karma, your good karma will help you reduce your suffering, right? Some of the suffering could be that you may be surrounded by a lot of people who will help you, and you will not feel so painful. You cannot stop the ripening of bad karma. So even if you repent, no matter how much good you try to do, you can never erase or remove the bad karma. They will ripen, but the good thing you can do is if you do a lot of good after that and you repent and you realize you have done wrong, and now you turn over a new leaf and do good deeds, and by doing good, you will accumulate good karma. So when the bad karma ripens, you will not suffer so badly. You will be surrounded by people who can help you. Okay, so this is really what can happen. So therefore, you cannot remove, you cannot stop the ripening of karma. You can only reduce the suffering by accumulating good karma. This is why it's so important for us to continue to practice, avoid evil, do good, purify mind. And all the bad karma we have done, they will ripen. But by the time they ripen, because we have purified our mind, we have done a lot of good, we have avoided further evil, right? And therefore, the good karma will also ripen to reduce our suffering for us. That's the only thing we can do. So I hope that answers that question.